Hello and welcome to day 147. We are continuing our way through Proverbs verses 4 to 6 and Romans chapter 8. So as we go through Proverbs, we're reading about a celebration of the role of wisdom in our lives. And the writer is saying, get some wisdom for your life. It really makes your life a lot better. It makes your life easier. Uh, they also go on to say, avoid evil people. Now, there's a lot in Proverbs that's really, frankly, just plain common sense, and this would definitely fall in that category. They also suggest you watch what you say, you value your intimate marriage relationship, and beware of debt. So, as you go through Proverbs, sometimes they go on and explain a lot. Sometimes one verse will have one or two bits of wisdom in there. But if there are some things that really resonate with you as you go through, this is a place to have a notebook ready and jot down some things that you find very helpful for yourself as you're reading this. Proverbs was really meant to be a section of the Bible that is reread frequently so that you really start bringing this wisdom and this common sense into your everyday lives. In Romans 8, Paul starts by comparing living a life of freedom in the Spirit versus a life of slavery to our sinful natures. Paul points out that by the Spirit, we can put our own sinful nature to death. And he explains a little bit about how God sent Jesus in human form to deal with the death and the sinful temptations that we face in our daily lives. Paul does also point out that following Jesus does not mean we will have a life without suffering or struggle in this part of our lives. There are some preachers, they're called prosperity gospel preachers, where they're like, if you have a strong enough faith, your life is going to be very comfortable, you'll be prosperous. God's blessings will take a form of earthly comfort. And Paul really is not going there with this at all. Paul recognizes that there are times when we are persecuted for following Jesus. There are times when doing the right thing for Jesus' sake is going to bring difficulties to our lives, especially loving our neighbors can often put us in a bind, both politically, socially, culturally, as well as economically and physically. So Paul wants us to remember that our comfort comes from Jesus, and it is a forever type of comfort, even if there are, in the short term in our life, times when we are facing a lot of difficulty. Um, so Paul really leans into this message of hope for the future, and that we have assurance because of what Jesus has done for us, that Jesus will always be by our side and the Spirit will always be within us. Paul also talks about how all of creation is going to be freed from sin, because the reality is, because of our sinful nature, all of creation is dealing with the consequences of our sin. So there are animals, there are plants, there is the earth itself that is dealing with the choices we have made. And some of our choices have not been the wise and holy choices. But through it all, no matter what's going on, Paul emphasizes that God is on our side. Nothing can separate us from God. Even persecution may be a struggle in the present, but God promises to redeem and make everything whole and holy again that's been broken. So this passage really focuses on the hope for the future and that we will always be with God. So live into the wisdom of Proverbs today and live into the hope that Paul gives us, regardless of the individual daily struggles that we face along the way. We'll see you next time.